Hello and welcome in to the first of my esports talk show. I'm your host, Mitch Reams. I was just brought on by FragRadio a couple weeks ago. This is a little bit different from our normal content. This isn't your normal music to listen to while you game. I'm an esports writer. I write for Sport Techie, and I get a lot of stories pitched to me by different members of the esports industry. And so I came to Frag and thought, hey, this would be a perfect platform to do some of those interviews, to talk to some of these cool people who have awesome stories, and maybe I don't get to write the thing for Sport Techie, but I want to bring people onto this show and just talk about the esports industry. So for the very first show we're doing today, I have two really awesome interviews. The first is with Ann Hand. She's the CEO of Super League Gaming, SLG Gaming. They have just announced 4 new teams, which from 12 teams in their league to 16. And Super League Gaming is sort of billed as a minor league for esports. So much like the Overwatch League, their franchises are geo-localized, meaning they have cities attached to them in a simpler way of saying that. And they have some of the greatest branding in esports right now. Awesome names, awesome logos, great design. And I'll have all those logos linked down in the bottom. But that's our first conversation with Ann Hand, CEO of Super League Gaming. We talk about sexism in esports. We talk about community outreach. We talk about a whole bunch of things. The second interview is with John Wayne Gurman, a Canadian entrepreneur. He's the CEO of Hacks Apparel, H4X, which is a performance apparel and lifestyle brand for esports. Very successful businessman, and his thoughts on the esports industry are awesome for people in the... Where he thinks this industry will go is very promising. He had some statements like, could be the biggest thing in the world, could be bigger than FIFA, and some other really great stuff, just as a little preview for that interview. That'll be coming up second, but right now let's get into our first interview with Ann Hand.
Your music to game to. FragRadio.com.
Hello and welcome back. I'm your host, Mitch Reams, and now we have a very special guest for you. We have Ann Hand, the CEO of SLG Gaming. They've recently announced a new expansion. Previously, it was 16 teams, I'm pretty sure, somewhere around there. They've just announced 4 new teams. The Atlanta Bashers, the Tampa Bay Dungeoneers, the Philadelphia Specters, and the Washington, D.C. Conspirators. So, I think the Washington, D.C. Conspirators are actually my new favorite logo team name combo in esports. The logo, let me see if I can describe it for all our listeners. But basically, it's the it's Illuminati-esque, and you have the pyramid, the triangle, and then the all-seeing eye above it, which obviously ties into the Conspirators part of their title. And I love that branding in esports. It's something we haven't seen a ton of previously. We're seeing to see a lot more in the Overwatch League. But really just having the cool branding, the logos, and the geo-localized franchises, that's something we're all going to be talking to Ann about all those different things right now. But first of all, Ann, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, and I love it that you love the DC Conspirators logo, because that is my personal favorite too. When we first came up with that name and logo, it was about a year and a half ago. And with all the political context in the States, the first reaction was like, oh, is that too negative, with all the politics going on? But the truth is we had shown that logo even to our partners at Riot, and they loved it as well. And it's just fun that a year later we thought, what the heck? It's the best logo we have. So what if it's a little edgy? Let's just go for it. And it certainly is one of our favorites.
It's that kind of stuff that plays with the esports audience. There's a lot of crossover between. That's sort of the counterculture part of esports. Conspiracy theories are very popular within the esports demographic, I would say.
Absolutely. And, it's been interesting for us because on one hand, we've really had fun playing with that kind of counterculture. And yet, too, what we found, we've run 2,000 events in our lifetime now. And what we do see at our events is also what a wide psychographic mix we have of players, even inside that LOL community. So on one hand, it's so fun to play up against those edges, and equally, you know, we have a lot of other team names that also we think celebrate the other dimensions of gaming. That, you know, Super League is a very inclusive, it's competitive and it's hardcore, but it's inclusive as well, and really speaks to like the very diverse audience of people that love playing the LOL game.
Yeah, what are some of your other favorite logos? Maybe not from the 4 just released. I think the Spectres logo is really cool. But what are some other ones that are already out there?
Yeah, there's a little like Sleepy Hollow thing going on with Spectres, which we like. And I lived in Philly for a while, so I attached myself to that one. Probably from the early days, the Chicago Force. And again, maybe that's tapping into some of my Midwestern roots, but just something about the colors and that logo I've always felt were strong. And, you know, Boston Revolt is another strong logo. We just love them all. And we've made all of these decisions on team names and logo development in-house. So we're really proud of that kind of IP we've created for ourselves. And it was really tapping into like the things you said at the beginning. We felt like there was this real lack of locality to gaming, that, you know, local gaming audiences are very fragmented, and that these city badges could be a real unifying umbrella for like all things gaming in these cities. And over time, you know, we'll start to understand what's common about the local gamer lifestyle from LA to Chicago to Tampa Bay, but also what's different about it, you know, what's kind of unique to those different cities. And what's been really fun to watch is how much both the publishers have loved this approach we're taking, that we're really becoming almost like a hyper-local marketing arm for them, but the reaction from the players as well. It just kind of shows you that it's like an inherent human desire we all have to want to like root for our hometown or represent.
Well, that's how that's the model traditional sports is used for hundreds and hundreds of years. You root for your local team, your college, your hometown, the city your dad grew up in, your country with its international competition. And that's something esports has always lacked a little bit. It's Cloud9 is a huge organization, but you don't have, maybe you're a fan of their Rocket League team or their CSGO team, but you're usually not an all-in Cloud9 fan. And if you are, you don't have the same passion you maybe feel towards a local hometown team. So that's what these geolocalized franchises that I think Super League is doing so well, I think they have the ability to inspire passion.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's also, I think in the early days when we were running events, you know, again, it was aspirational that one day, you know, a Super Leaguer would emerge out of our system and turn into a pro. And that's not that far off now in our goals and roadmap, with some other exciting offers that we're going to be introducing here in the coming weeks. But with that, I do think that, you know, we now, I think in the ecosystem of esports, people are starting to see how important Super League is to also the value over time of the professional esports league, not just because we can provide a route for aspiring gamers, but also we're converting people into being future fans of professional esports. You know, with our youth league, you know, they say with traditional sports, you know, if you're a kid who grew up playing Little League, if you start enjoying the sport of baseball sub the age of 12, you're kind of like a lifelong MLB fan. And I think it will be very much the same for esports, that as these professional teams are trying to build these local communities, there's a really fun partnership they can have with Super League, because we're already building that audience base, that future fan of theirs that they can then convert into the pro level viewing audience as well. And there is a fun kind of opportunity that we are going to be announcing in a few weeks, where we're actually going to take the best players that we're finding inside of our City Champs season that we're launching right now around the LOL product, and we're going to give them away to the very best players to graduate into a postseason experience that might actually include some of those pro teams coming to those events and doing some scouting. So lots of neat ways that we can start to be an important building block to the pro leagues and those kind of local audiences that they need to build.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm happy to hear that you guys are doing that. Is that an exclusive? Is that news out yet that you guys are bringing people in and maybe I haven't heard much about pro league scouting besides people watching ranked play and watching leaderboards and watching streams, but I haven't really heard of like in-person scouting for esports.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely very light. There's no promises of contracts or commitments, but it is something that we're starting to put out on our social here in the next coming couple days to help people who are signing up for City Champs understand that there are going to be these postseason opportunities for the best players that emerge out of our system.
That's awesome. I think that's really cool, and it's something that it's so important in esports, especially for having these local competitions, because so many pros, esports is a more solitary experience. You're talking to people over headphones often, but a lot of times you're in your house and you're not physically with other people while playing games with them. And so having these local competitions really inspires, I think, more community growth and social growth, which is something that we've seen lacking in a lot of esports athletes who previously were just behind their computer for a long period of time. And I know because I was the same way. And if there's more local...
You've kind of nailed the mission of the company, really. And frankly, it speaks to exactly why we've been able to craft these very strategic partnerships with the publishers is, at a very simple level, like we do act like almost a local match.com. We're helping you find other gamers in your hometown that are of similar level of play. And that kind of ability to match you up with people is something missing from a lot of the game titles. And then why that's so important and meaningful is that, we know that once you know the people you're playing with in real life, even if you now go home and are playing independentally alone online, a lot of, if not all of that toxicity in gaming comes out. And anecdotally, we're already seeing as well that once you know the people you're playing with in real life, skill progression is much faster because you know each other, you have each other's backs. There's not a lot of energy being put into that toxicity, but it's more about great gameplay. And so that really is the highest kind of mission of the company is how can we, through these online leagues and live event leagues, really create tons of local connections for gamers that can make them better players, but also bring in all those other neat elements that happen when you join a team, the character building, the leadership, the forging of friendships.
Yeah, the teamwork, working with different players and player personalities, getting the best out of everybody's different, unique skill set.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And you talk about toxicity in gaming culture. Right now, for our listeners, we are talking to Ann Hand, the CEO of Super League Gaming, who's just announced some 4 new teams joining it. And right now we're talking about minor league and how esports on a community level, on a local level, is important. And I think having people, that's one of the things the anonymity of the internet brings is people would say things they would never say to a normal teammate.
Yeah.
Ever. And it's horrible. And you had so much, even when I'm playing, I mean, I'm an adult person and I still get offended when somebody who's theoretically probably a small kid is calling me names on the internet. And there's that natural human reaction. But if you were playing side by side with this person, it's much more likely you'd compliment each other, make jokes, and have a more enjoyable experience than, oh my god, you totally suck, which is what a lot of online interaction is right now.
Yeah, and if you think about it, with traditional sports, when you're all physically together, there's also all the nonverbal cues. There's, if I haven't, didn't pass you a ball playing basketball, you might not be angry with me because you can see that I was looking the other way or I was distracted or but you don't get a chance to do some of that online in an anonymous setting the same way. So you instantly go to like the worst scenario or the darkest scenario of why that person didn't give you that assist, instead of understanding all that extra context in the room. And we find, too, a very popular conversation that's starting to happen with a lot of the publishers is as well just the way that in-person experiences also create a much more positive atmosphere for female gamers. And so, very great conversations with some of the big game publishers you know and love about how can we encourage more female gameplay, but also female professional play. And so, again, that live event experience, really for us, that's kind of the magic of what we do. That's where we see, people come in for the competition, but they really leave with not just meaningful, memorable experiences, but real connections that are quite enduring around this game. And from a purely commercial point of view, that has to lead to people playing that game more and playing it longer because they've built these important relationships as a foundation of it.
Following up on what you're talking about incorporating more female gamers in the space, this is a subject I've talked about with a lot of people, because it comes up whenever I'm talking to any woman in esports, because toxicity is such a real problem, and the gender divide, even though this is a game we've seen women compete with men on the absolute highest level in esports, but it's still male dominated. 90% of a lot of games are played by males. And so I was talking to a female pro, D Tran from CLG Red, CSGO pro, and we were talking about the importance of female-only tournaments, because it allows a space for women to compete against women and be away from toxicity for even a little while. Is there any plans for Super League Gaming to incorporate female-only spaces?
It's a really good question. It's something we've been just recently kicking around, is how do we create, whether it be leagues or other kinds of festivals and experiences, that not to be female focused, not in an exclusive way, and not in a way that sends a message to our female players that we need to create like a sheltered league for them to excel, right? Because what we see at our events is we do skew, not drastically, but instead of it being 90% male, 10% female, we're more 80-20. Which is already a good step in the right direction. It says that women are seeing these leagues as a safer space and are wanting to come. That's the way they want to engage around the game. But we certainly have kicked around the idea of female-specific experiences and leagues because, and what we've started to do is reach out to our female gaming community and just ask them, what types of competition formats and structures would really speak to you, and just give you a real opportunity to find a wider network of other like-minded gamers, and also feel like you're in an environment where you can really maximize how you level up.
Talking about female-only spaces, you talk about how the demographic is skewed to 80-20, which is probably slightly higher than, I'm not sure what the official number is, so I'm not going to theorize on it, but it's still a male-dominated space. But the fact that there's more women at your event, I think, speaks to the testament of, like we said earlier, it's so much harder to be toxic in person. They're much less likely to be called vile things just based on their gender at a community event face-to-face when regarded to miking up, and then the second you have it, you have somebody yelling through the mic like, girl gamer, oh my god. I don't even know. I've never experienced it personally, but I've heard horror stories. Yeah.
No, absolutely. We have to, again, it's anecdotal, early days, but my gut is that, we are skewing a little higher on women than the online pure play, and I think it's because of exactly that. And by the way, our events are super fun. I mean, yes, there's not 1 ounce of anything that, anyone who passionately plays LOL who's not highly competitive. But what's really fun to watch is the social interaction that happens before the live gameplay and after. currently use movie theaters as our gaming arenas because they're empty a lot of the time, and they provide a really great AV experience. So often when our players are coming in their jerseys, ready on gameplay, their first night in the arena, they walk into that auditorium, they see the big screen, and we've often heard people say out loud, like, wow, this is our LCS. So it's a real validation that it's a much smaller footprint than the Staples Center, but it creates that same kind of buzz and excitement about that great spectating experience and just what it feels like to be in a room with tons of other people simultaneously playing the game. But it's neat to watch, too, with LOL, how, once they kind of get established in their city teams, for the next night of gameplay, they're often showing up a good solid hour prior to gameplay to strategize. Yeah. If on that given night, the Chicago Force know they're taking on the Houston Blast, that they're already thinking about champion select strategies. And then what's also great is after the 2 hours of intensive gameplay, it's now, time to pack it up and go home, but they stay. They take it to the bar or, to the lobby, and they exchange summoner IDs, and they continue to connect. And so, that's the kind of great part that I think makes it super inviting for all types of gamers, and a slightly different environment than what they're getting online.
Absolutely. And so following up on that, I think when you talk about a minor league for gaming, which is what you guys are billed as, I think it comes in, when you compare it with traditional sports, which I think that happens a lot, but it's not maybe the most accurate comparison. But right now, there's a lot of varsity programs popping up around college campuses, which in traditional sports, obviously college is used as a minor league in many cases, where that's where right. Players are drafted from. It's where they get to showcase their skills. Do you see Super League Gaming being an alternate route to colleges? Do you see it being something players go maybe after they've graduated and played collegiate esports? Or do you see it as like a sort of a competition for this is where young prospective gamers will either go to a varsity program or they'll go play in Super League Gaming and try and make it that way? Is that how you see it?
Yeah, it's a great question because it's such a big open space, the esports landscape, and it's just right now, just the pro level is starting to take shape and be defined. And what's great about the platform we've built is that we can create a lot of different types of leagues in a very automated way at all kinds of venues. And they can be at various levels of skill and play. So for example, with our Minecraft product, which is a youth product, we run after school leagues for kind of kids who are in like the 5th through 8th grade. That's obviously a very low entry point into competitive gameplay, right? But it's more of like an interscholastic after school type experience. By the time you get to the LOL City Champs, our demo is 16 to 34. So it's a very wide demographic of competitive LOL players. You need to be a level 30 player. So you're a ranked player. So you're certainly, a person who's really investing a lot of time to maintain that ranking. I would almost call it, probably akin to like what you would see in college as like a club kind of level sport. Now inside that range, we have bronze through challenger level players, and certainly master challenger level players are people who have the potential to kind of convert into the pros. And what we ensure of inside that competition is that whatever level you are, you're playing people of similar levels. So we don't have diamonds and plats playing bronze and silver players. So you're always getting kind of that healthy competition across your appropriate tier. But all of that said, when it comes to the college level, I think Super League connects in a couple ways. I think one is that Super League is the interesting platform that could be additive to what the publishers are already doing there. When they're running tournaments for the Big Ten, it's a 5v5 match in LOL. What we could be is the next tier down, which is really that kind of club level that you often see at colleges, where now we've got 60 additional players, call it the junior varsity, that are now playing in other competitions against other kind of Big Ten schools and can be the feeder into that top team that Riot kind of brings into their Big Ten kind of varsity-like tournaments. The other role of Super League is that because we are potentially testing people in live environments, which really gets to like when you're a pro team, you know, you can't just find the best players online because you don't know if they're coachable, good team players. Can they handle the pressure of a live experience? So these physical venues and experiences, we do get to test those softer skills, those very important skills. And the truth of the matter is pro teams need to find people way before college, right? You know, they need to find them at 16, 17. And so we've also started to test some high school-based leagues and exhibitions. We just ran one in the Huntington Beach area, held it at UC Irvine in December, because we think that's a very important place where, again, we need to create league systems for that kind of age bracket of player and, again, get them into physical spaces where you can start to test what are the real, all the holistic skills needed to be a great esports athlete.
Yeah, and you get into one of the really interesting differences between esports and traditional sports. It's that young prime where pros are high school age, 16, 17, 18 years old a lot of times. And it's pretty rare for a professional to start their career after graduating college at the age of 22, whereas that's very common in a lot of other sports.
Exactly. You know, it's interesting. I've thought about it a bit. And while I do think that, like, I think we will see some things prove true, just like traditional sports, which is, you know, Tom Brady still, you know, a star quarterback at the age of 40. I think, you know, the life span of a pro athlete in traditional sports has grown and aged up. And I think we will see that over time in esports. Now, how far it will go, I don't know if it will go to 40 years old, but this notion that a pro esports athlete peaks at 21, 22, I hope, with all of the great kind of science and support that these great pro organizations are putting around their players, they're going to really understand how to, like, physically and psychologically and nutrition-wise, like, really extend the life of a professional's career. But yes, right now, it's highly unlikely you're 24 and, you know, graduate from college and able to make that jump into the pros.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that preventing burnout is the community outreach, those community events, having social spaces. Because right now, if you're playing a game, to be a pro, you're going to need to play 10 to 12 hours, probably a day, to really be on par. Maybe you're a god and you're just better than everybody else, but you're going to be playing a lot of game. And if you're doing that all by yourself without bouncing ideas off of people, it can be exhausting mentally and physically. It's just not good for your body to be stagnant for that long while in a high-stress, high-pressure environment, which is assumingly high-ranked play. So I think events like SLG are very important to extending the lifespan of esport athletes' careers by just getting them out and getting them in the community.
Yeah, it's a really great point you make, that we just have to find a variety of experiences, both physical environments and also league structure, alternative tournament structures and ways to engage and play that make the game kind of new and different or more engaging, but also bring, you know, all those other things we all want in life, which are the human connections and those other things that kind of, you know, increase your character, but also just your overall joy. You know, I always say I played a lot of games growing up, but I also, you know, played traditional sports as well. And I always think about, you know, I could hit a tennis ball against my garage door, but you know, you don't really learn, you know, character until you join a team. You know, that's where, you know, there's just a whole different level of your love of the game. And the joy that you get from it, but also the way it really does start to then translate into, like, other aspects of your life and greater kind of life outcomes because of the important lessons you learned by being a part of that physical team.
Yeah, and I don't want to take this too long. I think we're already getting close to 30 minutes here, which we're going to run into time issues. But one final thing I want to say on being a part of a team, I feel like so many players on esports, it's either the anonymity of the internet or the fact that they've never played on a team, but it's not normal to be talking badly about your teammate. it's not good to denigrate your teammates' play. Be like, what are you doing? It's not the way to form a cohesive team. So I think a lot of that is the anonymity, like I said, and then young age, maybe never having the team experiences. But once you're working together, you realize how to sort of uplift your teammate, and I think that will end up paying a lot more dividends for your rank by, supporting people and making them want to play with you.
Absolutely. And, when you come together in a physical environment, you start to identify who are those people that they may not be the best player, but they actually really are the glue of the team. We have one young player who's 16 for our Chicago Force. He had to have his mom write him a pass to get out of math class so that he could get online to see if he got his, if he made it in the rankings to join the Chicago Force team. He's almost become like a bit of a mascot for the team. We have another young player who's a high school player for the Miami Menace who, on opening night, he was the one who went up in front of the theater, in front of all the other players who were older than him, and gave this unbelievably eloquent speech about what it means to be a part of a team and to represent Miami. And again, he's not the highest ranked player, but his role was so important to the team. And I think that respect for the important variety of roles that we can all play. And, it's kind of like in traditional sports, someone would get the mental attitude award. Those roles are important and great. The difference between good teams and really great special teams. And we think there's an opportunity to do the same thing for esports.
I love it. We need more and more of those kids in esports, the eloquent speeches, and really get into the passion of esports.
Yeah.
And is there anything else I didn't ask you about, something you want to plug right now? We talked a little bit about the new news coming out of SLG, but that was about 30 minutes ago. So if you want to talk about the newest things that are happening with the league, please, the mic is yours.
Yeah, absolutely. So for all the LOL players out there, we now have expanded. So we're in a total of 16 cities. We really encourage you over the next couple days to sign up, join our tournament. You go through a set of online qualifiers, a real fun condensed week of play where you'll be matched up in a tournament system against other players of your skill level. And hopefully you'll be one of the ones that will break through and be invited to come represent your hometown when we go into the live events piece of the tournament, which is the city v city battles. So again, on any given night, if you're the LA Shockwaves, you could be taking on the New York Fury or the Dallas Dynamite or the Seattle Siege, what have you. And those physical events are super fun. And they're also included in your initial tournament fee to join the online qualifier. So there's no additional cost. You get an awesome jersey, some Riot points. It's just a really super valuable, cool experience and offer. And we just encourage people to join in the fun. And as well, I just say on like a more kind of higher note, I've really enjoyed this interview today because it's so validating for us every time we get such a positive response to the fact that we think that there is so much more like goodness that can be brought to competitive gameplay and competitive esports at the amateur level. And so it's just great for us to really get validated that we're on the right path of creating this city-based league system, these environments that really celebrate all kinds of competitive gameplay, and absolutely never taking off the foot on the accelerator about the heightened competition and the seriousness of the play, but ensuring that they're also just environments that are super fun and inclusive.
I love it, Ed. I think you're doing amazing work and exactly what esports needs as it continues its growth and works its way into the mainstream. For all our listeners, please go check out Super League Gaming's logos. I will link them down in the description below. Some amazing stuff, great alliterations, Seattle Siege, Dallas Dynamite. I'm a lover of alliterations. They get me. But thank you all for listening, and thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. And we will see you, listen in next week, and we'll have another couple great interviews, and hopefully, Ann, we'll have you back on in a little while. I'm imagining this will get a good response, and let's talk again soon.
Okay, sounds good. Sign up for City Champs.
I will. I'm not very good at League, but I will, if you ever do a Rocket League extension, I'll be the first one in line for the Portland team.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right. Thank you so much, Ed.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So that wraps up our first interview with Ann Hand, the CEO of Super League Gaming. It was a fantastic conversation. Great to talk with her. And one of the reasons I love Super League so much, just in summary, is that it gets people out and practicing healthy esports. Not sitting at their computer, calling people horrible names, but talking with people, interacting, staying social, while also competing in the games they love. And it's just great to see that local, community-focused esports. So that was our first interview. We're going to transition right on over, keep on going, to John Wayne Gurman, the CEO of Hacks Apparel. We had a great conversation. He has some very lofty goals for the esports industry as a whole. He thinks it could outpace all sports eventually, given enough time. And just an awesome thing to talk with him about Hacks Apparel, performance apparel line for esports, and some of that, just to give you a brief preview of what performance apparel for esports is. Padded sleeves, extra room in the hoodies for headphones. You know, a couple small considerations that are made with the gamer in mind. Oh, and in this interview with John, we had a little bit of issue with the audio. I was recording him through an audio capture device linked to Skype, which recorded directly into the Audacity file, and it ended up with a good amount of distortion on it, and I've tried to do the best I could in post, but definitely a lot of that distortion comes through, and I really do apologize for that. I hope it doesn't make it too hard to listen to, because we had a great conversation. I don't want to detract from any of John's points, because like I said, it was just a bit of an audio issue, but we figured it out now, and it shouldn't be a problem in any of the future shows. With that being said, getting right into John Wayne Gurman, the CEO of Hacks Apparel.
Your music to game to. FragRadio.com.
Alright, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Mitch Reams, and now we're talking with John Wayne Gurman. He's the CEO of Hacks Apparel line, division of Moniker, which is another esports apparel line. And the goal for Hacks is it's both a performance apparel line with esports athletes in mind and a lifestyle brand. How are you doing today, John?
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you're all good? Hello and welcome back. I'm your host, Mitch Reams, and today I am joined by John Wayne Gurman. He's the CEO of Hacks Apparel, a division of Moniker.gg. That's Hacks spelled H4X. And what they do, they're a performance apparel clothing brand and a lifestyle brand, specifically with esports in mind. How are you doing today, John?
Oh, great. Fantastic. Glad to be here with you, Mitch, and glad to be here with all your listeners.
Thank you. We are glad to have you as well. So, can you just take it from the top a little bit? What's your background? What led you into Hacks is now a couple years old, I believe. What led you into the founding and creation of this?
You know, basically, well, my background is in fashion and activewear apparel and building innovation into garments. I've been doing that for about the last 35 years. So pretty much a professional in that area. I was introduced to esports, basically, by some young friends who basically introduced me to Twitch. And I sat down and studied I was watching with them for about 3 hours straight. and I noticed that a lot of the clothes and the uniforms the players were wearing, or actually not wearing, was pretty poor. And then I realized that there was an opportunity to dress these athletes in esports. So I saw what we call a white space, an open space there that's saying, wow, these guys need the right uniforms, the right gear, and we can definitely do that for them and build a brand out of it. And basically, that was the thought that I just recognized, and we went for it, full steam ahead. I'd say it was within the last 18 months.
I love it. And I think that's a common theme about the esports industry, is just massive amounts of white space. In whatever faction you want to go to, there are so many underexplored avenues in esports that could make people very, very rich.
Yeah, if you have, you got to do it. Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of hard work, stressful moments, and the business is not. It's not a big business right now as far as selling consumer products. In certain cases, there are some pockets. The leagues are doing okay, and the teams are doing okay. But a lot of people, even the leagues and the teams, like still trying to make not making the money that they should be making because it's still a growing sport. And especially the amount of money it takes to put on these events, or it takes to finance the teams. It's a lot of money, and for right now for a little return. So it's not, if you don't have a strong stomach, very, very difficult.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I think a lot of the investment is sort of banking on when the generation that loves esports, the younger generation, doesn't have the most purchasing power now, but in 10, 15 years down the line, if their passion for esports continues, the money will start entering the industry in a big way. At least that's how I see it.
Well, Mitch, it better not be 10, 15. It better be more like 1 to 2 years. I'm banking on 1 to 2 years, which I think you'll see the sport's still a little bit of the wild, wild west. It's come a long way from where it was to where it is today. Huge step since the beginning. Have you been to an ESL event? They're productions. They're like big box office, shows. DreamHack's communities. Anyway, it's exciting and definitely huge future potential.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think we're both banking on that a little bit. You a little less than me. I've very firmly placed myself in this industry. I think you have your feet in a lot of different avenues. So, talking a little bit, we talked about this a little bit before going on air, but can you tell me about your experiences at J Corp, being one of Canada's largest retailers, and how that's prepared you to now move into the esports industry?
Well, first of all, J Corp actually designs and produces fashion apparel.
Yeah, I shouldn't have said retailer. My bad.
Yeah, four retailers. And J Corp has a lot of licensing deals with companies like Disney, Universal, Coca-Cola, many brands in music and entertainment, TV shows, like Rolling Stones to urban music, country music, and we build product and collections for retailers with it. So we'll take Coca-Cola and build a Coca-Cola collection and sell those to retailers.
So yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but that does seem like an area where a big part of it is noticing the brands and trends. Like I noticed on your website, Rick and Morty is one of the first ones. And so somebody had to be like, hey, this show's getting a massive cult following. It's got giant amounts of people. So I feel like a large part of your business is identifying the brands and the trends that are going to be the next hot thing, which then makes the next.
Absolutely, you got to get in early on the trends, Mitch. That's exactly right. We got to be always, our ear to the ground, and we got to be on it. What's next? What's coming up, and quick, because the competition is quick, and you got to get in there early enough so that you can make deals with these partners and get your company in the right position to have the licensing rights for these brands. So, recently we did the UFC brands, MMA brands, and stuff like that, which you may be familiar with. And we've done, major, in athletic wear. There's UFC was a very comparable to the time we got into UFC. UFC was basically also in its infancy stage, and it was still a little bit of the Wild Wild West. That's getting in early, and creating brands within that space. And actually, I know that the esport brands that we're building are going to morph, be 10, 20, 30 times bigger than what the UFC was, because esports is so world. I mean, this is FIFA. These are the type of numbers and viewers that are watching the sport.
This is FIFA. I love it.
Big business.
Yeah, that's it.
We're already. There's games like League of Legends and Counter-Strike that have more players or viewers than Major League, the World Series or the Masters. They're almost touching the Super Bowl numbers. So the only one that we're not near yet is FIFA. So that's this will be the biggest thing in the world.
Wow, yeah, I hear that from a lot of people, and it's really crazy just to think about how far esports has even come. And like you said, you got into space 18 months ago, and since that point, we've seen partnerships across all the major American sports leagues, massive, the $20 million Overwatch League. Esports is blowing up right in front of our eyes.
It's really. Yeah, and it's still there's with the publishers open their own leagues, and then you have the ESLs and the Dream guys and other everyone was opening up not everyone, there's people opening up other leagues and stuff like that. At the end of the day, we still don't know what this is all going to end up looking like. We still question it. What will be the ultimate league? What will be the best formula? Overwatch is going the city route with the teams in these cities, which I kind of like that. I think people like to root for their cities. People like to root for their countries, Olympic style. So
I see a lot of value in the advertising in that as well, in being able to have local sponsors and have Boston companies supporting the Boston team. I feel like that is a lot of value.
Yeah, well, just when this weekend we were at the Dota ESL tournament in Katowice, launching our brand there, H4X, which is hacks, and the launch was super successful. It's a new brand that people are getting to see. Viewership was very high, and the stuff. A lot of positive comments and. On the quality of the brand and the look, so we're very happy with the first weekend launch. And next weekend is the Counter-Strike event in Katowice, Poland, which I'm off to in a couple of days.
Awesome, that'll be really fun. So I do want to talk a little bit about. We've talked a lot about industry stuff right now, but I think one of the first questions, at least the first question on my mind, was when I heard there's a performance apparel line designed for esports athletes. I just sort of wondered what went into performance apparel, specifically with the esports athlete in mind. So what are some of the features that are in the Hacks clothing brand that you really was designed for the gamer?
So, one of the first things, we talked to a lot of gamers and got an idea, asked them, what bothers you when you play, what do you like to play in, just things that, what you think will help you play. So we do a lot of focus groups like that. And, one thing that I thought of personally is that, what we did is we did we did a technical arm sleeve padding in the arms of our jerseys and of our hoodies, our technical hoodies. And when I say technical, why these are technical pieces? Basically because the fabrics, sort of like compression, we call it, or if you look at some brands like Under Armour, some of those type fabrics for your viewers to understand. And then what we added padding in the sleeve. So when the player is playing on desk table or on their elbows or rubbing on the tables or whatever, or they're working their mouse or they're working the keyboard or whatever, they got cushion now on their arms, which will make them feel more comfortable. Even if you're not playing, you got the cushions there, so it's still really comfortable. So we did that in our jerseys, and that's the first technical piece that we designed and patented, and that it's all, you'll see it, you can see it on our website. Basically, go to our website h4x.gg and you'll view the first endemic piece of fashion garment. Endemic, when I say, is like made for gamers, for gaming. And there's going to be a lot more coming. I mean, we're going to have, we call them smart clothes. We're going to have garments that, I'll be a little sarcastic here, but I don't know, sarcastic, but like, they're going to walk, they're going to talk. These are going to come alive. These garments are going to bring you all kinds of different experiences through esports. Basically, I can't say everything, but next season, we're going to have things in that are going to make the arm sleeves are great. That's more technical for comfort and minor injury. But some of the stuff in the future is really going to have high technology in it.
Oh, that's really interesting.
It's if you want to look at what Hacks is, the brand Hacks is basically, if you look at Burton, what Burton was to snowboarding, or Lululemon was to yoga, or Billabong to surfing, or Vans to skating, that's what Hacks is to esports. So our mission is to join that club where the gamers, this is the brand for gamers. This is the brand for the players. This is the brand for or anyone that plays, whether you're a professional, you're amateur, you're just a kid that plays, girls, guys, whatever. This is your brand, basically. We want to give you your own brand. That's what Hacks is, your own brand. Gamers, here it is.
Very cool. And some of the other things I've seen, so the performance apparel, a lot of it comes down to the padding and the cushions. And it's funny that that's something you do. For years, my friends and I have had this belief that having a pillow in your lap while you play with a controller makes you better by supporting your elbows, and it allows you to be quicker on the triggers. We don't have any science to back this up, but we have this belief that just having padding under there makes you a better player. So it's funny that was one of the first things you thought of.
Yeah, and I want to tell you that I'm not a big gamer or anything. That was almost like common sense to me. So that was the first thing that when I started this line, and I said, well, let's put padding in the arms and stuff, and we did it, and we got a patent for it on top of that. So boom, boom.
Awesome. And then some of the other things I saw, just looking at your website, a lot of moisture prevention, because it's, especially for the high, being on that stage, I'm not sure people realize how intense, like my dad came to me, and he's my barometer, he's my real world connection to esports. So whenever I talk to him, he's just doesn't understand it really. He's supportive, for sure, but doesn't really understand esports. And so I usually bring things to him, and he'll tell me how the common consumer perceives it. He's like, why do they need? Why they're sweating a lot? They're not moving. And I compared it to NASCAR in the sense of stress, and while they're not physically moving very much, NASCAR, they're going at 200 miles per hour, obviously, but the stress and the moment of being on that stage just causes pressure and sweat.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, they're sweating. But I want to tell you something. Yeah, they're sweating. They got a job to do. Yeah, but they are. When you're they're stressed or nervous or whatever. They're anxious or whatever, and they're moving their bodies around. Yeah, no, they get sweat. Now they can sweat and they can freeze also, actually. But first of all, the thing is, when you're talking about professional gaming, what the guys are wearing now and the players are wearing now, a lot of it you'll see doesn't have any of the moisturizing wicking in it. Besides the heating and the sweating, another thing is that they got to keep. There's so many computers and so much digital computers and all that stuff there that they blow cold air in, actually, cold air onto the stage. To keep the computers from failing and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm not actually sure. If that affects the players at all. We're more concerned about about them sweating and we want them to smell good. How's that?
That's always nice. I'm sure the post-game interviewer appreciates that.
Yeah. So hacks will make it smell good after you play.
There's a new tagline for you.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm also. I mean, in our innovation. I mean, like I said, we're going to be doing so much innovation and smart. We call it some smart clothing, some smart tech gear for the esport players. I mean, we're going to show you how. What some of these guys, when they're wearing a jersey, you can probably. I'll let this one. I was like, you can see their heart rate, while they're playing. Basically.
Oh, on the clothing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's like awesome. That's super cool. I've never seen anybody do that.
Yeah, but there'll be a lot of very interesting things that we're going to be adding. Whether we're implementing, someone, an IP that's out there already, or whether we're inventing it ourselves. Collaborations, etc.
Absolutely.
I'm all about collaborations. I'm really all about collaborations in these industries and partnering up with people who have great ideas and actually great technology, IPs, fashion ideas, or just in general any intellectual properties that have to do with the digital area as well.
Definitely. It's funny you mentioned collaboration and partnerships. One final question I wanted to ask you. So a lot of your work in the past has been with your twin brother Marvin in Yogurt and in J Corp. You guys have been known as twin executives and entrepreneurs. Is there a reason he's not part of Hacks? Is that correct?
He's not part of Hacks yet. I usually start the ball rolling on new projects, and I always like to get on to the next thing. And Marvin's always been able to, continue the same product and keep it going. The money, keep the money coming in and maintain the businesses, like the core businesses like that. So just be patient. And I said, listen, this is a risky. It was at the start. It's a risky investment. You don't know whether it's a success, but it'll be a success or not. I'm maybe more of a risk taker, and I jumped into this, and I said, well, let's wait and see. And it's something that this is a venture capitalized project as well, and investors want to see how it's going, and before they jump in real big. And we've done some incredible things in the last 18 months. we do have a strategic investor, which is the Bitcraft venture company. Jens Hilgers is the godfather of esports, and that's one of the main reasons why I also took on this project, is because we're with professionals that know this sport and have lived this sport for the last 15 years and are experts in it.
Yeah.
So the combination of our professionalism in consumer products, apparel, and stuff like that, versus and the expertise of the people that we're partnered up with in esports is huge, So 1 + 1 should equal a great success.
Yeah, the blessing of Jens Hilgers is a great thing in esports. One of the almost got the Midas touch in this industry.
Yeah. I think we got lucky. Either Jens got lucky, or I think we both got lucky. How's that?
Yeah, I was gonna say it doesn't have to be exclusive.
And we're from different parts of the world. We're from different businesses, all different, coming together to form this experience, which has been an amazing experience in learning each other's businesses, cultures, etc.
Absolutely. All right, I'm going to let you go here. This has been a great conversation. I want to thank you so much for talking with me. Persevere through the technical issues in the beginning. To our listeners, if any persist through the final recording, I apologize for that. Quick question, is your Ferrari still pink?
Ferrari is not pink, actually. It is not pink anymore, and somebody actually bought that pink Ferrari. It was cool. That Ferrari was very cool, and it became a celebrity. That pink car became a celebrity, so somebody had wanted to purchase it. But we are going to be doing some very creative marketing for hacks in that same type of venue, same type of themes. I love marketing stuff, so I'm going to come up with some really crazy stuff marketing this brand. I'm really excited about it.
That's awesome. I'm excited as well. I've been talking with John Wayne Gurman. He's the CEO of Hacks, performance apparel line for esports. John, thank you so much for talking to me. Please, you said you're going to Katowice, so you're going to have a shop set up. Plug what's happening for Hacks in the coming months.
Well, so Dream Hacks this weekend. Sorry, not Dream Hacks. Excuse me. Sorry, it's ESL one at Katowice, Poland. You can watch it on the Facebook streaming. Hacks you'll see Hacks all over the screen. See it on the casters. You'll see it, on all the banners and everything. You'll see different events. I think we even have the post-game show or pre-game show. But we have a beautiful digital booth going with all the product in there. Lots of you can buy online at anything you want at h4x.gg. This is going to be a huge weekend. Looking forward to great things in the future. So this brand is for the gamers, by the gamers, basically. And you guys endorse it. Girls, everybody endorse your gaming brand. This is for you, for all you guys. So you can like us on our Instagram, our Twitter, and Facebook. H4XGG, h4x.gg.
Awesome.
That's about it.
Yeah, thank you
so much. This was so much fun. Let's do it again tomorrow.
I would love to. Hey, how about every day we just do a 30-minute call and we'll see where Hacks is at.
I love it. All right, guys. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Fans out there. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. So that wraps up my first show for FragRadio. It's been an absolute blast. I want to thank Ann and John so much for being the first guests I had on. Unfortunately, that inexperience did lead to a bit of distortion in John's interview, and I feel horrible about that. But like I said, I hope it was listenable and you still got some good things, some good quotes, and some good thoughts out of that. We have another great show coming up for you next week. Please follow FragRadio on Twitter if you don't already, at officialfr. and you'll have a sneak preview of a couple of the guests who I'm bringing on next week. But some more great interviews set up, and with hopefully much less distortion. So with that being said, thank you all so much for listening. I'm Mitch Reams, and have a great one.
Your music to game to. FragRadio.com